Soon, many homeless people and families seeking shelter in Washington, D.C. could be turned away, even on some of the coldest nights. In November, D.C. Councilmember Tommy Wells proposed legislation that would place residency requirements on individuals seeking shelter in D.C. shelters. Currently, the district is required to accommodate anyone who seeks shelter when the temperature drops below 32 degrees. I talked with Fred Swan, the Family Services Coordinator for the Department of Human Services.
The legislation is actually an amendment to an existing law. There's an existing Homeless Services Reform Act, which is a local law that governs the way homeless services are to be delivered. And the legislation is amending that act to add certain provisions. The residency legislation, as it's currently proposed, will affect primarily families seeking severe weather shelter, and families and/or individuals seeking other types of shelter like temporary shelter and transitional housing. It will not affect those individuals who are seeking what we call low barrier shelter or severe weather shelter for individuals. Primarily will be families seeking severe weather shelter.
This is part of a growing national problem of funding cuts to social services programs due to the economic downturn.
We need to continue, and Congress needs to help states by continuing to find ways and find funds to help states meet these budgets, because it doesn't help if the state implodes and doesn't have the ability to provide services. And across the states, they're looking for ways to save money, but those all hurt often.
Critics of the legislation say that it is cruel and would add yet another hurdle in the process of connecting individuals to urgently needed city services. I talked with Neil Donovan, Executive Director of the National Coalition for the Homeless.
By the very nature of homelessness, people don't have addresses, and oftentimes they're not recently from anywhere. Oftentimes they go to one state for a while because of perhaps re-engaging with a friend or family, and then that opportunity ends. Sometimes they might go for a job or something like that.
Many homeless advocates are also concerned about what would happen to the thousands of non-district residents who would be turned away from shelters.
Well, a couple different things. One, we wouldn't just turn you away. There are other services that we would provide. We have something called Traveler's Aid, where they actually would purchase a ticket to put you on a train or put you on a bus and get you back to where you came from. There's other services that they would provide. They may provide you with a food card if you needed a day or two staying with a friend in the district before you can get back to where you need to go. They would provide you a food card so you and your family can have something to eat.
How much money would this new legislation save?
The bill will not save any money. Based on the analysis done from the Chief Financial Officer's office, it'll be cost neutral in the sense that it will not cost anything additional to put this in place, but it also will not save us any dollars, because essentially any beds or slots or shelter units that would now not go to non-district residents would just be filled by district residents. So it's cost neutral.
On the other hand, it could turn out to actually cost the city money.
It actually turns out to be a much more costly decision, because what people find is that if you turn somebody away from the door of a shelter, you're going to be serving them sometime either later that day or a few days later, either through an ambulance or police or firefighter.
On the other hand, city officials maintain that this legislation is necessary. Since 2008, the number of families migrating into the district has tripled, according to officials. This strains an already tight city social services budget and reduces the resources available to D.C. residents.
The motivation is looking at the information and the data, which shows us that more non-district residents are coming into the district seeking shelter services over the past few years. So those numbers have increased based on the data that we have. And so what they're looking at is increasing at a time where budget and fiscal concerns have been highlighted. Of course, there's been a lot of budget pressures on the district over the past few years, in conjunction with having more non-district residents come in seeking services. So I believe the motivation is looking at the need to reserve what scarce resources we have primarily for district residents.
It's a short-term solution. They're saying that there's this huge, many $million deficit that they're trying to balance on the backs of the homeless. And so to think that you're going to actually be able to balance your budget using resources that are targeted towards the disenfranchised, the poorest of the poor, is not only unethical, but it's not good fiscal policy.
Councilmember Wells said, "We cannot be the housing alternative of last resort for the entire East Coast. My intention is to prioritize space for DC residents." But critics of the bill have called it inhumane and cruel.
As individuals or folks calling the bill inhumane, I think calling it that depends on your perspective and what you think the bill will end up resulting in for the homeless clients. And I would guess that people who have the perspective that it's inhumane feel like that it's going to present, or should I say prevent, district residents, legitimate district residents, from receiving services. I do not see that personally as the case. I mean, there's actually there's a residency requirement within the law as it exists, and it has not prevented district residents from receiving services.
Is this a good solution?
The best idea would be to really listen to those who are unhoused, listen to those who are advocates for the homeless, recognize the fact that they need emergency shelter, and try to balance your budget in more legitimate and stronger moral reasons.
This has been AnnElise Trafford reporting for School Without Walls News.